Good evening and thanks for joining us. Canada is now ramping up the federal response in case what's happening in other countries with COVID-19 starts to happen here. It would strain both our already overstretched healthcare system and the economy. So a special new cabinet committee led by Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland has been set up to tackle it.
The job of this committee is to ensure that Canada is ready and prepared for all eventualities, and we are. We take the COVID-19 outbreak very seriously.
It is natural to be concerned about what COVID-19 might mean for you and your family's health. This is a concern that public health authorities across Canada are taking very seriously, and government at all levels are engaged in the response.
The Bank of Canada also slashed its key interest rate today by 0.5 percentage point, saying the virus is a negative shock to Canada's economic outlook. We'll have more on that in just a moment, but we begin with the outbreak itself. There are now 34 confirmed cases in this country. All are in BC and Ontario, except for one in Quebec. In tonight's top story, David Akin looks at Canada's rapidly evolving response to what is an unprecedented outbreak.
So today we had our first meeting of the Cabinet Committee.
Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland chairs this special committee, but it will be Health Minister Patty Hajdu who will take the lead on a whole-of-government effort to make sure healthcare systems across the country can contain the virus, and if that fails, deal with an outbreak. So far, so good. Cases in Canada, all related to travel, no cases yet of community transmission.
And our discussions and work has focused on ensuring that our surveillance systems are detecting cases and our health systems are prepared for an increased activity.
A key task for public health officials, communicating to Canadians that most COVID-19 infections are mild.
Such patients can be cared for in the community, while reserving, of course, very scarce resources potentially for those who really need it.
Tam says phone ahead before going to the hospital. Now, half of this special committee holds economic portfolios in Trudeau's cabinet. That's no coincidence. Every forecaster, now including the Bank of Canada, says the country's economy will take a hit.
We recognize there are many different people and industries that are seeing challenging situations because of the coronavirus.
That's why opposition MPs are pressing for quick action now on the economic front.
And so what I'm looking for from the government are things like, is there a fiscal stimulus plan? Is there a jobs plan? I'd like to see some support for workers who may have to self-quarantine to make sure that there's some financial compensation for them so that there's not a disincentive to stay at home.
So lots of pressure on the Prime Minister and his COVID-19 committee to rapidly deliver results on both the health front and the economic front. And Dawna, there's going to be not much margin for error.
David, there is news tonight about how the Canadian military is preparing in case this outbreak impacts their operations. Tell us about that.
That's right, Dawna. A general order went out to the military today because they are getting prepared in case there's a pandemic.
We have two main objectives. One is to preserve the force and our ability to function should there be a pandemic. The other is to support Canadians.
And of course, the military, first of all, has to protect its own members. And so these new orders ban all non-essential travel to countries with an outbreak. And commanders also have the authority to cancel vacations for the troops. The military is also going to review whether it ought to hold large gatherings. Now, second of all, the military has to have plans in place to assist a federal or provincial government or municipal government in trying to deal with a pandemic here. Chief of Defence Staff Jonathan Vance telling Global News that the military is making those plans on the worst case assumption, and that is that they might have as many as 25% of their members could be in quarantine or fighting COVID-19. Dawna?
Wise to make worst-case scenario plans. David Akin in Ottawa, thanks. The outbreak is already having an impact on supply chains of companies in Canada, and the Bank of Canada is concerned about the economic outlook for this country. So it cut Canada's key interest rate by 0.5 percentage point overnight. It's dropped from 1.75 to 1.25%. That's the first drop since 2015, and it's in line with the cut the U.S. Federal Reserve made yesterday. It's hoped the lower rate will boost consumer confidence and help settle the markets, which have been on a rocky ride over the past week. Today, the TSX closed up 355 points. Doug Porter, the chief economist at BMO, says it's a smart decision given the situation.
Very few people saw Bank of Canada interest rate cuts anywhere close to this soon. So obviously the world has changed in a very short period of time. And I think this is a constructive step in helping to address the risks to the economy from the virus.
The drop in interest rates might help those looking to buy a home or a vehicle, but it won't help cover the costs if your company's employees have to stay home or other parts of your daily life are disrupted by the outbreak. Porter says the rate cut is an immediate step policymakers can take, and they do have other tools they can use further down the road if the economy slides.
If things really do get tough and challenging in the months ahead, there is room certainly at the federal level for the government to either cut taxes or to spend more money to support the economy.